So, I think we would do it in English, or is everybody German speaking here? No, okay, no problem. I prepared it in English, but it's not my native language, but I will do my very best. The slides are in English, and I think we will come together in English today. Welcome to my talk for search engine optimization for Symfony developers. Before I go into the topic, I will introduce myself. This is me. It's nearly 6 years ago. It was the first birthday of my biggest son. He's 7 now. So at first I'm a father, and I'm Maximilian Berghoff. You can see me. Oh, it's very small. When you have a look at the internet or at Twitter, you will find me under my avatar. It's Electric Max, so you can find me on Twitter or on GitHub. And for other communication, you can use email. And there you see that I work for a web developing company in Würzburg. We have 2 more bases here in Berlin. No, we are in Munich today. This is the autumn edition. So in Munich and in Berlin, and we're doing full stack web development. We serve teams for complete teams for web developments. And yeah, let's go to the theme. SEO could be a theme on a Webinale context in Berlin too, because SEO mostly is a kind of a consulting theme. But I don't want to do consulting here today, not in preparing your web applications for matching with Google or for some SEO rankings. I will do technical insights. So you won't get any hints from me how to make your website better on Google, but you will get the technical homeworks. And 2 words which are for me as I'm not good at grammar, and those 2 words are almost equal for me, but they mean they are different. At the end, any suggestion in SEO context is something like being a prophet, because nobody knows what the search engines want, but we have a clear context, or a context where we do our technical stuff, and we won't get any profit here. So we just make our web applications better, and we will make some tools, or I will suggest you some tools to enable your content editors to do good web content, or to good contents for SEO optimizations. So what is SEO then? I see it as a kind of a user experience, because there's a matching part between it, because we have a lot of topics, or a lot of stuff we can do, which makes our SEO ranking better, which also makes the user experience better. One example is, you can see here, a very, I should do it bigger, or I read it for you. I think from this summer, Google ranks sites down which are slow. So not only in the mobile context, they rank down sites which are really, really slow. So it is a task for us as the technicals or as the web developers to make the sites slow, faster. So to do preparings for the images, to do pages which are prepared and don't take so long for with rendering in JavaScript, and yeah. And the second thing is the security. And this is the easiest task for us as the developers. Today it isn't that hard to create some certification. Let's Script does it for us. So there shouldn't be so much pages without SSL certification. And most of the newer browsers reject pages without any SSL certification. I've got a really hard customer in my family context. It's no real customer, it's my wife's father. And he came to me, oh, my browser doesn't show this page. Yeah, this page has no SSL certification. So his browser rejects this page. So that is a thing we can do as a developer. And yeah, a tool for that is Let's Encrypt. Good for positive ranking is also well-structured source code. That is nothing the customer or the user for the web page will see, but the search engine will be happy. Maybe the page load or the page, the time the page loads will be faster than 2, and yeah, yeah. So. There will be a point where I sit down because I have a little, it's called, yeah, it's a little disease in my brain which makes my movement a little bit harder. So don't worry if I sit down. It's no point of non-respect. It's just because the medicine doesn't work that well. So the last part I made here is open information. The user wants to get the information he prefers. The search engine also wants information, mostly to present them on their own pages, but it's the same purpose. They're going on a page. As a user, I don't want to go through very deep navigations to get to the content I'm looking for. Mostly, I want to see it, or I want to know where I have to find it. So there are some examples, so I would sit down now. For negative ranking, I mentioned it now, it's a deep and complex navigation structure. I am, as a user, won't ever use some drop downs and moving is in the 3rd or the 7th level. I will I will have a look for a search, and I'm going. This is the way I'm going to the content I'm looking for. Mostly, I came from a search engine, deep to the top to the content I'm looking for, and I think which leads to a negative ranking too, and would have a bad user experience are fakes in maybe landing pages, fakes in links, fakes in link generating stuff. This is a theme or a topic which search engines doesn't like and which users also doesn't like. So, as a little result for the beginning, and this isn't really related to the framework I mentioned in the title, we can do little things for links and navigation, and there said. We shouldn't do that deep navigations. We should make the navigation as clear as possible. We shouldn't offer so much dead links. And this is a technical thing. If we have dead links on our page or links which doesn't really work, we as a developer are in front, and we should avoid this. So we should use a technical solution to avoid those links. And one thing to do that is not to offer hard links, except for outgoing links. But for internal stuff, we should offer links from a kind of a select box or something else, where we are sure those links exist, and those links are referenced in our database maybe or something else. And another thing for links is, yeah, I mentioned it, do not break and do not cheat. And yeah, I said it before. SSL, I went as we were on the list. I said it before. There's no execution, or there's no reason why we should have pages without SSL security. So you should just do it. Or is anybody unable to do SSL certificate with Let's Encrypt or something else. So, yeah. Next topic is HTML source code. This ends mostly in valid source code. We have a lot of tools today which manipulate our DOM. We have a lot of JavaScript, a lot of client libraries like React or Angular, which do a lot of things in DOM. And the most browsers are very calm today with broken DOM structures, except old Internet Explorers or something else, but we should have them in mind. And when creating DOM and when creating our templating structure, we should have in mind to make the Internet Explorer happy, because this is a cool feature, because the Internet Explorer shouts up when there are broken DOM structures, and yeah, we should avoid it, because mostly our web applications are structured in big inherited templates or something else, and there we should be very careful with breaking the DOM. And there are a lot of tools on the market to simply check if the DOM is ready, and to check the other ways. I will talk later. Yeah. One comment, and it sounds really easy because it's in every suggestion list for SEO, is structured headlines. Our HTML has this feature of priorities between those headlines. Most of our front-end guys breaks it. They make one headline, maybe with several classes, and just to bring it under control of the CSS. But our headlines are a feature of HTML, and we should respect it to give the user a kind of a priority for the content, where the main part is, where the sub part is, and this is the thing a search engine makes happy too. Mostly the theme is inside of the domain of the content editor, but we can support the content editor to do it right, and we can reject requests from our front-end guys which want to destroy the structuring of our HTML. Another structuring part is the usage of really structuring elements. We have them since years, so we don't have to use these structuring by classes or IDs. We should use the HTML we get from the convention. So this is another structuring point too, because if I see a DOM, or if the search engine sees a DOM, he will see the navigation, and the navigation gives the links where we are going to, and not a div container with a class nav or something else. So we should use those structuring we have. There are other ways to structure HTML. I will talk about it on the end of the talk, but now I will go into a really common topic of that SEO domain. These are meta information. These are these tiny little meta texts we have on our page. I just copied the meta text from PHP conference site here. This isn't generated by any tool. I would show you at the end. This is really copied from the page here. What we can see, I think we should know about it, and we should provide it. And from a technical perspective, it is quite easy to provide it, because if we have content somewhere on our site, we can share this content to those meta information too, if we use some tooling or something else. And these, I think those meta informations are really basic. This is the oldest one, I think, just to give a short description, to give some keywords, and to give a canonical link. And that isn't a topic which is really that important for Google for the ranking, but it's important to serve the information we have on our page, and and we also do a hide where to find the robots. And anybody know about this meta tags, or should I explain them? They're well known, right? So even canonical links. Yeah. Okay. There are others, and those others are here to give some support for social media marketing and something else. Or this is the Open Graph definition, and there you provide almost equal information for maybe Google not Google. This is for Facebook to do some object ranking, or to connect the content in a real object graph. And this is almost the same information we gave in the links before. And you can see if we do the same for Twitter, they have an own way to define it. It's the same content, and we shouldn't offer an admin for our content editors where they do it one by one. Maybe they can do if they want to do a separate image for Facebook, for Twitter, or something else. But if there are information which are directly from the content and they don't want to change, we should offer them a technique or an admin structure to not do that at all. Because I think generating those meta tags all on these 3 pages should be come out of the box of any web application when content is really important, or when the thing is important. I'd like to offer, because we will see later on, we also can describe products, and we can describe ratings for stuff we are presenting. There's a lot of possibilities. And I said it before, who does the administration? Nobody wants to have an admin with every meta tag I presented before in a text field. This would be a horror, and nobody would edit it, or nobody would fill any stuff inside it. So it's our job, and we can get some support from the framework. Here I show you some examples from my Symfony perspective, because I'm a little Symfony evangelist, I would tell it, because I maintain a framework next to Symfony which provides features for content management stuff. And there I also maintain a bundle or a package which supports SEO information, or which supports the developer to do those SEO tasks we have here. And so the list we've seen before can be that easy. So for those who don't know Symfony or tricks, this is just a kind of a trick, templating helping function or helper function, which provides the meta tags at the end. And those functions, you should have some kind of base layout HTML where all of your templating ends in, and then you put your information in the head of your template, and you will get all of the meta information you need. And you also see that there is another tag I've doesn't mention before. Is the it's for the language information of the document, which is quite useful too, or which is very important if you go into translated content. So, where does it come from? At the beginning, it comes from Sonata Admin, or from Sonata SEO bundle. If you're working in a Symfony context, you should know Sonata, because Sonata is a kind of a admin framework. Sometimes it's a little bit pain, but mostly if it's pain, you use it the wrong way because you expect too much from it. They have more packages next to their admin bundle. This is the SEO bundle, and inside the SEO bundle, we do have a SEO page object. This is an object we carry through our application. Those who know the internals of Symfony should know that we have a kind of a bag which we fill on our request response cycle, and the SEO object lives there in the back and will be filled from out of our application. And you can see how we can set the meta tags and the properties we need to set. And yeah, if you mostly your content is served through a controller or something else, and there you should have the content in a kind of object in front of you, and there you can fill the data into the page object. Or another and better solution would be to do it in a listener right in the cycle, because Symfony has got a lot of hooks to go into the request response cycle, and this would be the best point to do it inside, because it won't be that good to do it in every controller, because it should work under the hood. If there's some specific content you want to present, the listener will say, oh, it's mine, and I will work on it, I will fill the page object, and then the meta tags are in your DOM, and you see the result. So doing it in every controller would be wrong too, from my point of view. And yeah, so we are at that point because where I would like to present or suggest you the second bundle, and this is only two. Yeah, there are only two today, because I have to tell a little story about this bundle, because this bundle was my real first open source project I started with. This was nearly 5 years ago. A man called Lucas from Switzerland fixed me with the idea of the Symfony CMF, which is content management framework. And then I started working with it, started playing with it, and I came with a proposal for a SEO bundle, because the approach of the CMF is to have the content in the center. And the content in the center and the persisting content in a kind of a tree is so easy to adopt for SEO context or for SEO stuff, because it is easy to extend. We can put some metadata on top of this content, because we have no real structure like in structured databases. And it is easy to ask, because we will see it later. If we want some error handling in kind of just a little typo in the URL, it would be quite easy to ask the tree, oh, are there any siblings which sound similar to the URL, or are there any parents? Because error handling is a SEO task too. And yeah, and so that's the way I came to the CMF SEO bundle. I prepared from day one, and there the only thing we have and we should think about is we serve an kind of an interface, it's a SEO aware interface, and this interface forces your content. It doesn't matter where you store it at the moment. You can store it in the ORM version, or you can have a look or ask me later on what PHPCR is, but shouldn't care at the moment. We just put our SEO data on top of our content, and we can create an admin to administrate the data there, or we can create some kind of extraction, which you will see later. And here you see an example for the SEO aware interface, and it's just a demonstration content. It's a content where simply only a title property lives on, and yeah. But this could be a property we want to share on our SEO meta text too. So this should go on our title property, should go on the meta title, should go onto Twitter. Maybe we want to make it a little bit different on our different channels we put it. And the thing we need for this is just a short configuration. Symfony lives from YAML configuration, and there you can see this both basic properties, I would call them, the title and description, are extendable. So you can create a kind of a base slug which you present, and the dynamic part is behind it and can be translated too. So your web pages maybe here's a default, but it could be PHP conference, and each talk will get a pipe and the talk title in the title section. So it's it's created by that string in a kind of a parameter way, and yeah, that's not the talk, but that is the way. You shouldn't have to do more. Having maybe Sonata SEO bundle, CMF SEO bundle, having a content which has that interface is enough, together with those templating helping functions, to put all your SEO meta information into your HTML. So there's no real manual work on it. Doing it that way, it will always grab the information from the object sitting on the content. And yeah, the question I have here is, do I have to edit it now on each content? No, you don't have to, because we as developers should implement something I called extractors, and that are the functions we can implement on our content to make the little difference between the content title and maybe the title we want to show on our in our meta information. And if it's that programmatic, there are a lot of interfaces to grab the SEO information. This is one for the title, one for the description, one to handle canonical links and their lifetime, and some to do those arbitrary stuff, because as we have seen before, these open graph or Twitter meta tags are arbitrary at the end, and you can do them the same way on your extractors. So you can the easiest way would be to simply return the title, and then you can return the title for the normal meta tag. You can return the title for the Twitter title, and for the open graph title. And there are a lot of extractors inside this bundle to get more control. But if you've got an admin where you implement a text field for each of those properties come first. So we implemented that content listener I showed before here in our where is it? There, and that content listener has got this priority doing, if there is an admin who wants to have a really special property or a really special content for this property, this comes first, and the others will be managed through the extractors. So it's just developer work at the beginning, and yeah. So. But there's more than meta text. Meta text is quite easy, and I hope you see that the solution we created there is something you don't have to do a lot of manual work, and there are other properties you need inside your meta, inside your template or inside your DOM. That is something called alternate languages. So if you're starting translated content, you should inform in kind of a meta tag that there are other languages of your content. So if you have got a German page and an English page, and there you have got content documents or content resources which are translated only. You can mark them as alternatives or as simply different languages, because from my point of view, a translation is just another perspective on a content. And from a search engine view, they can see it as a duplicate, because it's just a translation. This is no real other content. It's representation was the word I'm looking for. It's just another representation. So if you mention it, and therefore you need only a little extra configuration, you need the trick function, and at the end there you can see your alternative link with the correct language selects. Here we use the language. In our DOM node, we use the other ISO format with DE_DE. And here we should use the language. And if we have a German page, we would link. It's quite a link. We would link to the English one here too. And if we have more of those translations, or we will have more of those links. And this is a thing which really comes out of the box if you have got your content in a kind of a tree-like structure, which is behind that CMF stuff. Those languages are laying together. They are mostly siblings, and there I can ask, hey, are there other translations of your current language? And so the output is really easy. What I didn't mention before, that content listener I've showed works on every request. So it's important to do some kind of caching, and we do caching on a Symfony layer, and we prepare those content in the file system, I think. And so if the content isn't changed, the SEO information we provide for the DOM isn't changed too, is cached, and will be there will be a fast output. So yeah. One thing which is also included and which is quite common are sitemaps, and we also do. It was a little bit harder to do the configuration we do. We prepared a concept of different sitemaps. As I started with the theme, I never. I haven't it in mind to have different sitemaps, but a friend of mine put me into this topic, and so we can create several sitemaps, and we can create some functions to divide our content into several sitemaps. And again, sitemap is a thing which becomes easier when you have a tree, because mostly when you have your content in a tree-like structure, your routing will be in the tree-like structure too, and the routing to the content is the thing you will present on your sitemap, and there you can demonstrate or show the tree too. To offer the sitemap, you simply have some small configuration, and you also have to add some routing, because yes, there's an extra controller doing the sitemap handling, and yeah, and your content needs a sitemap aware interface to control on which sitemap to be shown. This is a way to divide the content into different sitemaps. For the beginning, if you create one and maybe say every content should be on the sitemap, you can simply return true, and everything is fine, and all your content will be displayed. You also can offer your sitemap in different formats. I haven't seen it before, long before. In former times, normally the user will have a sitemap link too, but the most web application doesn't present it. But you could have HTML representation for a sitemap too. The most useful is the XML representation, which you serve to your search engine, which you mention in your robots.txt to give the information you need. And in the configuration, you see the configuration for the change frequency. This is a property on your sitemap output to inform the search engine when to come back for the next time. And yeah, there you can do a lot of playing stuff to re-index and something else, and therefore it's quite good to have different sitemaps, because there can be changes on routing, and sometimes you want to force the search engine to re-index your page. So this is a property you can use. Yeah. A thing I didn't mention here before, but which came in mind now, is when changing routes, you shouldn't delete the old ones. You should prepare a kind of mechanism to create a redirect route, because that route is a thing your search engine won't really like, because yeah, your user won't like it too. There are a lot of users who store your links inside of their bookmarks, and when they come a week later and find a 404, they will be very unhappy. Having a 404 is a good point too, and this leads me to the next theme. It's error handling, and the very basic is to inform the search engine and the user that a page isn't available. A blank white page is the worst thing you can do. In Symfony, you will get a blank white page for errors on which are on server level 2, and so the search engine and the user will get a 500, which has no information, and which makes the user unhappy, and which makes their the search engine unhappy too. So error handling should at least lead into real and good status code. And if there's a page which has moved, or a user has a typo maybe in the URL, or has an old link, they should get it 404, and they should get extra information, because it's very user-friendly to serve informations where they can go to. Maybe you can lead them to the main page, or to some listing pages, or you can give them suggestions. And this is the thing we try to prepare there, because this is the configuration for the error handling, and here you can define your own template where you can put your information inside you want, and you can enable some providers to serve parent and siblings. Because as I said before, if I do a typo in the URL, I can look into my tree and see, oh, there's a parent, this parent exists, I can give the suggestion to go to the parent. And most of those parents are container pages which present lists or something else, and the user will get, hopefully, the page he preferred to get. Another thing, if there's a parent, I can see the siblings of the page which was formerly requested, and then we are on a point to give this pages, or to give links to those pages. And mostly, if the user is like me with my typos, the user will find the page he formerly requested. But he gets information about his hoops, there's something wrong. The search engine gets information about the status code, and he has no white page, so he can go further and consume your web application. Yeah, so, and I said it before, I want to come back to structured data, and here I don't mean structuring the HTML code, because there's something else which is called structured data. This is that JSON LD string maybe, and this is I won't call it new, but this is another way to give meta information for your page. This is the JSON ID string from this conference page here, and there you can present real objects. And at the end, these are objects. There's a schema definition for those objects, and you can you can define the content you are presenting. And that is the reason is the search engine won't understand the text you are presenting. At the end, the content is a kind of a text. Here you can define real properties, and those objects, there's a whole set of objects. You can define events, articles, products, people, addresses. You can go a little bit deeper. If you have a company, organization, that organization has a kind of an address type, has some other communication information. And that is a thing we can prepare as a developer, and we can serve as a developer because that are information we have mostly. When it's an organization, it's kind of a base information. When it's some content, we can grab it from our content too. And these little snippets are the reason you see those preview images on Google. So Google takes those preview images or the information for their preview images out of those snippets, and there are some snippets when you see the previews where you also see ratings for products or something else. And this is a quite good feature to carry out your information for your products right into the search engine. Has a pro and has cons, because sometimes the user won't go to your product, and sometimes your product is highlighted through those information. I think the main purpose of search engines like Google is to get all the information on their side, and to have the user on their web application, which is the Google search engine, and not to go into the entire page. But I think we should serve other solutions to catch the user back on our pages. But it's quite common to define those information, because it's good for the ranking, it's good for the presentation. You won't get any that little string in the search result. And it's one of the next features of these both two bundles, because it isn't implemented yet. I do it the next weeks because there was a lack of time. But normally you can do it on your own. It's just JSON, so you can output. You can create your own little trick function or template helper and output your desired content there. And another structuring idea is to give some deeper information on our content. And here we can see a kind of an address, and there you can see the same schema.org definition, and they also define those objects you've seen in a JSON ID structure before. And if you have got an address, you can mark it as an address here, and you can mark the parts of the address. So what is the postal code? What is the city? What is the name? And doing so, the search engine will have it much easier to grab the information, because if you do it in an address tag, it's a good beginning, but at the end it's just text, and doing it that way in a kind of this marking stuff, you will explain what are your parts. So yeah, I am mostly at the end of my talk. I try to put the theme which doesn't sound very technical into a technical perspective, because we as a web developers are responsible to serve those functions, or to serve the possibilities for our web application, for our content editors, to do the correct content marketing. And maybe, or not maybe, from my point of view, that are tasks which are kind of homework. And there are other things, when I started the talk, which aren't in the source code, but which are important too, is the security and the page load. So that are a lot of topics which are in our hand. So that SEO theme isn't that meta business theme at all. The SEO theme is a homework for us as a web developers, from my point of view, and that's the reason why I'm really happy to have the chance to present some technical solutions. And we have got 40 minutes for little questions, and I would be very happy to get something, and I would be happy to get input, maybe if you need something on that topic, if I've missed something in the implementation.